What's up YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be covering how to properly warm up for your strength exercises. I'm talking your meat and potatoes, your big compound movements. How many sets, how many reps should you do prior to doing your working sets? We're going to cover all of that today, so listen. So before we get into our strength-specific warm-ups, let's talk about warming up in general. First, you want to complete some sort of mobility and dynamic warm-up before we get into our strength work where we're touching a barbell or dumbbells. So what I mean by this is holding some new mobile positions, such as doing a stretch for a second or two, coming back to our starting position, and then going back into the strength. We don't want to do static stretching where we're holding a lengthened position in our muscle for a long period of time, because we're actually going to decrease our force production that way when we get under load. So think about a rubber band. If you stretch it out as far as you can, it's eventually going to snap, and there's no force to bring it back to its original position. Same thing with our muscles. If they become too elongated and your body's not used to that length of a muscle, it's not going to be able to create a strong contraction. Whereas if we do some dynamic mobility work where we're moving in and out of these new positions, our muscle is able to snap back and recoil back to its original state. So I really like using movements that we go in and out of our stretches, not holding for an extended period of time before training. So that brings us up to our strength-specific warm-up. Now, before we actually get under load on a bar, I like to complete an entire barbell circuit before I actually start loading up my movement. So what that is I do 10 barbell squats, 10 barbell good mornings, 10 rows, and 10 overhead presses. This is just to get blood flowing to every part of my body, no matter what exercise I'm doing for that day. So every compound, you're going to elicit some sort of force from every portion of your body if you're doing it correctly and getting tight on all of your movements and contracting all of your muscles. So even in a bench, when your feet are on the floor, you're still going to have some sort of leg drive if you're doing the movement correctly. So we need everything to be nice and warmed up. Also, this is going to have me get a little bit of a sweat going. So why that's important before training is your body functions optimally when it's around that 100-degree mark. So it's going to take us a couple of minutes or maybe a couple rounds, depending how hot or cold it is, just to get our body to that 100-degree mark to perform optimally. Now, this is also just going to help us warm up and feel good and feel ready for our real strength work. So how heavy should our warm-up sets be and how many reps? So for me, what I like to do is start with a really light weight, move slowly through the movement, feel all of the muscles firing that you're supposed to feel. This is something like taking the bar on a bench before you're doing a barbell bench press, taking the bar on a squat before you do a barbell squat. Same thing with the deadlift, a little bit different because you have to have some plates on the floor, otherwise your range of motion is different, but that's for another time. So our first warm-up set, you want to be super light and not fatiguing whatsoever. So after you have your body acclimated with the movement and you're developing those good neural pathways to move properly, then we're going to add some load to the bar. Now, how much load depends on what your working sets are for the day. Generally speaking, I like to warm up with the same reps at the beginning that I'm going to be doing in my top set for the day. So if I'm planned out to do sets of 3, my warm-up sets are going to be sets of 3 until 3 would be a little bit fatiguing, around 80% of my max. So for those of you who aren't calculating 1-rep maxes and percentages, things like that, generally after you reach about half the weight that you expect to be doing for your working sets, you don't want to take those sets near failure to make sure we're not fatigued for our top sets. So when you're warming up, you want to make sure that we're just finding our movement pattern and really just acclimating with a little bit of heavier weights before we go for a top set. So for example, if you're someone who's doing a 50-pound dumbbell press, you'd want to warm up with 35s for a set of 3 or 4, 40s for a set of 2, maybe 45s for a set of 2, if your 50s are going to be in the 6 to 8 range, just to acclimate our body to the heavier weights that we're going to be using for our top sets. Now, I hope you guys learned something today. That's really the general basis of how to warm up. You want to make sure we're not accumulating fatigue in our warm-up and we're really just priming the body. You have to use your warm-up to prime yourself in order to complete your top sets for that day. So don't push your warm-ups too close to failure, but keep working hard on those top sets and really push your top sets. You really want to just find that good movement pattern that your body will remember, so that when you get to your top set, you don't have to think too much about what you're doing. Your body already knows. So with that, guys, I hope you learned something today, and check back next week for the next video. As always, please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you guys want to see. And if you learned something, please leave it in the comments today. See you guys next week.